We're going to go ahead and kick this off now. My name is Adrian Lapola. I am OneSource Distributors Network Solution Consultant. I deal with everything Rockwell, Cisco, Panduit, industrial related. So any networking, cybersecurity questions you have, please feel free to reach out to me. We also have Martin Galanders and Matt Wright on the phone. They'll be able to answer some of your questions in the chat. We have everybody muted right now. So if you want to ask a question over the line, we'll unmute your mics at the very end of the presentation. So kind of moving along, we're going to start out doing a quick tour of the Rockwell Mayfield Heights CPWE Lab. And CPWE pretty much is a blueprint that you can use to help you with your designs and your deployments of network infrastructure, industrial network infrastructure. So let me kick off this video.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Industrial Internet of Things Converged Plant-Wide Ethernet Lab. My name is Daniel Lahr, a Network and Security Commercial Engineer, and I will be your tour guide for the virtual lab tour. Today we will be guiding you through the Industrial IoT Converged Plant-Wide Ethernet Lab, or CPWE Lab, which is used for a majority of the CPWE network and security system characterization, as well as large-scale application level testing. This lab was founded in support of the IT-OT convergence initiatives and joint strategic alliance partnership between Rockwell Automation, Cisco, and Panduit. Our partners contribute to the CPWE program by hosting a variety of their own test beds designed to mirror Rockwell Automation's lab setup that we have here in Cleveland, Ohio. The Converged Plant-Wide Ethernet is a collection of future-ready, architected, tested, and validated designs developed in partnership with Cisco, Panduit, and Rockwell Automation. The CPWE portfolio provides content that is relevant to both operational technology (OT) and information technology (IT) disciplines. The CPWE portfolio consists of documented reference architectures with supporting guidance on best practices, design, and configuration. This library of information is provided as a resource to OT and IT personnel to help with the industrial development and deployment of scalable, reliable, safe, and secure plant-wide or site-wide network infrastructures. The CPWE system characterization is based on a variety of network and security products co-developed by Rockwell Automation and Cisco, which include the Allen Bradley Stratix family of industrial Ethernet switches, industrial firewalls, FactoryTalk Network Manager software, as well as a variety of FactoryTalk applications such as FactoryTalk View Site Edition, FactoryTalk Asset Center, FactoryTalk Transaction Manager, and Studio 5000 Logix Designer. Through the work of the CPWE portfolio, the team provides education, training, and services to help bring the connected enterprise to life by cultivating the OT-IT convergence. During the testing of the CPWE program, the team focuses on testing for performance, availability, repeatability, scalability, and security. To summarize, the CPWE team ensures that the tested and validated designs will meet application requirements, provide highly available services throughout the industrial operation, while still being scalable for a variety of applications. We live in today's world of digital transformation, which is here to stay and is great for business, but it also creates greater urgency to bridge the cybersecurity gap between information technology and operational technology. The CPWE program follows the defense in-depth approach to secure architectures and ensure that security is always built into the design, even if security is not the focus. In addition, the variety of network and security designs are built on technology and industry standards such as IEC, NIST, IEEE, and the IETF. The reference architecture shown here follows the Purdue model, which separates industrial operations into multiple levels, then organizes various functional areas of the operational process into zones. While the CPWE testing, validation, and recommendations focus on the industrial zone, which is levels 0 through 3, and the industrial demilitarized zone, or the IDMZ, the reference architecture also includes the enterprise zone, which is levels 4 and 5. As the tour of the Industrial IoT CPWE Lab continues, a variety of industrial automation and control system hardware that is seen resides in the cell area zone, levels 0 through 2. The CPWE team maintains a large site operations infrastructure for all CPWE testing, which resides at level 3. While the CPWE reference architecture shows 3 cell area zones, generally, the CPWE testing has upwards to 30 to 50 cell area zones actively in use with up to 10 distribution switches shared across multiple projects. While the main infrastructure and core tenets of the CPWE remain the same throughout the testing, the technology and cell area zone designs differ from project to project based on a variety of use cases. This large-scale, application-level testing and validation helps prove out the scalability of the designs that are recommended through the CPWE program. The site operations room is not only a centralized location for physical cabling and physical infrastructure, but also acts as a centralized location for all of our various network resources, servers, rack mount switches, firewalls, and so on. The CPWE infrastructure also includes several Cisco distribution and core switch platforms, such as the Catalyst 9300 and Catalyst 9500 families, to ensure that our customers can make decisions with the peace of mind of the CPWE testing program. Thank you all for taking time to enjoy this virtual tour with us today. We hope to see you in Cleveland soon.
All right, thank you everyone. So that was a quick video on the CPWE. So instead of just being a chart, I just wanted to let you know that this is actually a true lab that exists in Mayfield Heights. Very similarly, Rockwell works directly with Cisco and Panduit. So in Raleigh, North Carolina, Cisco has something set up very similar, and in Tinley Park out in close to Chicago in Illinois, Panduit has something similar. I've been to both of it, the Rockwell and the Panduit one, not yet out to Cisco's, but if you are interested in doing a tour of any of the facilities, let me know and we can kind of get that set up for you. You will receive this slide deck at the end of this, so if you would like to click on the links, this is the CPWE Lab tour, as well as any of these design guides and implementations. So the CPWE is made up of white papers, so I would say if you're going to start out and look at any of these designs, start with a white paper. It's a real quick kind of summary guide into the full-blown design. And on the left is a link to the actual design. The design will be more of a couple hundred pages, and it'll give you more of an in-depth blueprint on how to actually deploy and design your industrial network infrastructure. Also, there's another tool on Rockwell and Cisco's websites that you can go through. Click here at the very bottom of the link, but what it'll do is it'll take you on a tour through the CPWE, and at the very end, it'll actually provide you another link into that same design guide and white papers. So feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or problems with it, but I'd really recommend kind of getting used to the CPWE. It could be used as a blueprint for you to go through and design. If you do have any limitations where you wanted some assistance, Rockwell has some design services, and so do some of our partners. So depending on what industry you're in, reach out to us here at OneSource and we'll be able to help you out. Now to kind of kick into the switch layer definition. Some of you may have heard of layer 2 and layer 3 switches. This is an OSI model. This is something, if you are on the IT enterprise side, you kind of start out with when you're troubleshooting. But what the OSI model does, it helps out with vendors that are creating tools and applications and hardware to go out there and work on that enterprise IT side. And it goes everything from the very top at the application layer through the presentation, session, transport, network, data link, and physical layer. It'll go through in each of these different areas. The top 4 will be more host layer driven. The very bottom one is going to be more actual network or media related. So Ethernet, token ring, serial communications. And in our case, we're dealing directly with Ethernet IP. So when you talk about a layer 2 or a layer 3 switch, layer 2 is at a data link layer, deals with MAC addresses. Layer 3 deals with IP addresses, and that's IP address routing. We can also segment that down further into the actual OSI layer reference models with multiple layers of security. You can see some of the solutions that Rockwell has at that application layer at the very top through FactoryTalk Security. At layers 6 and 5, SIP security, this is going to allow for that encryption of data, make sure the integrity is good at the end when it is sent through. And at layer 4, the transport layer, this is where TCP and UDP exists for connection or connections. TLS, this is going to be your transport layer security, and DTLS is datagram transport layer security. In essence, TLS is what you use when you go to those secure websites. Those SSL secure socket layers, it's going to give encryption at that transport layer. IPsec, ACLs, IPsec is used for VPN encryption. ACLs are access lists to give access to IP addresses, MAC addresses, and protocols across your network. At that layer 2 data link layer, you have MAC or MACsec, MAC security or port security. This is where you can get down and on the Stratix switches allow certain MAC addresses to have access to a port or not allow MAC addresses outside of maybe a group of 2 to 3 have access. And then at that physical layer 1, you can actually have port block-ins or lock-ins or block-outs. This is for copper ports, RJ45, or maybe you're using some of those LC connections for your single mode or multi-mode connections. Next, kind of kicking into the Stratix switches, which are our base switches with Cisco IOS. These were made in conjunction with Cisco. On the left side of this chart, you're going to see a bunch of feature sets that are designed, and then the unmanaged switches, lightly managed switches, fully managed switches with either light firmware or full firmware. You can see going from an unmanaged switch that doesn't have any of these features all the way through to the full. When you're making a switch selection, get a hold of me if you have any confusion, but I can help steer you in the right area. You're going to want to know what kind of application you're going to be using. Depending on that application is going to really dictate on what switch you're going to use. Now moving into the switch portfolio, kind of taking over what I showed in the previous slides, we have, starting on the left-hand side, we have the Stratix Switch 2000, which is an unmanaged switch, through to the 2500, which is our lightly managed switch. Then getting to the fully managed switch, the Stratix 5700 or the Stratix 5700 Armor Stratix, the Stratix 8000 and 8300. These have actually been discontinued as of November of 2020. They have now been replaced with a mix of either a 5700, a 5400, or a 5800. The 5800 is our newer switch. It is very similar to an 8000 with regards to modularity, meaning you can add on an expansion module. And then through to the Stratix 5410, which is a kind of a 19-inch rack, more of an IT enterprise grade form factor, but it is hardened for industrial environments. So once again, this is a letter for the end of life for the Stratix 8000s and 8300s. It's going to be a mix of Stratix 57, 54, and 5800s. So get a hold of me, let me know, or anyone on our team, and we can kind of help you guide through that migration process. The Stratix 8000s are still supported. There's still parts for this, but like I mentioned, it has been discontinued as of November 30th of 2020. So the first this is that higher lifting, higher up in the grapevine. I'd say this is more of what we call a core distribution layer switch. This is the Stratix 5410. It is 19-inch rack form factor. It's an all gig switch. It supports both layer 2 and layer 3, like I mentioned that OSI reference model. It supports 4 10 gigabit uplinks, and this is a lot of these will be used if you're getting into a VM or connecting up to virtual machines or some of your higher end core layer switches. Also, there are 24 port gig Ethernet downlinks that you can connect up to either other switches or actual access devices out there in the field. You have the ability to go up to 12 power over Ethernet or power over Ethernet plus connections. Supports NAT, and then it supports something, all the Stratix lineup supports something called Premier Integration. So what Premier Integration is through add-on instructions, add-on profiles, and FactoryTalk faceplates, you're going to allow these Stratix switches to natively speak without any hard work on your side to go through and set up the settings to let them natively speak with Rockwell controllers, VFDs, HMIs, and instrumentation. Next on the list, we have the Stratix 5400. This switch also is an all-gig platform. It comes in either a layer 2 or layer 3 form factor, supports power over Ethernet, network address translation, or NAT. What this is it gives you the ability to assign duplicate IPs throughout your plant in different cell area zones, and then it'll create a public to private IP address translation, similar to what you use at your house. You have a public IP that your IP vendor gave you, and then internally you have a private IP. It's going to do something very similar on your industrial plant floor. And then also it supports PTP, which is for SIP sync for motion applications, as well as DLR. So not only does this device support device level ring, which is either a device or a switch level redundancy protocol, it'll support up to 3 separate DLR rings. Also has default automation configurations set up through Express Setup, which helps set up smart port access for automation. And then also, just like the 5410, supports the Premier integration through add-on instructions, add-on profiles, and factory talk faceplates. Next is the Stratix 5700. I would term this more of an access layer switch. So at the very top of the grapevine in the CPWE, where you have the servers and switches to switches communication, that's more of a core layer communication. Then you get down to a distribution layer, and then you get down to the weeds where out in the field you have an access layer switch. That's where I'd say a lot of these 5700s exist. It will give you a mix of fast Ethernet, 10/100 megabit, or gig Ethernet, all the way up to 1000 megabit. And a lot of those gig uplinks, there's usually 2 of them, so you can have 2 connections up to 2 higher level switches. Also supports DLR, but it only supports 1 single ring, unlike the 5400. Also common tools for IT and OT, same thing with the 5400. All these switches give you the ability to use either web interfaces, use your Studio 5000 for configuration, or if you have an IT person helping you out, they can get into the command line and use their IT geek skills to kind of help you out with either troubleshooting or configuration. Also, similar to the other Stratix devices, they all support Premier integration. Next is a Stratix 5700. This is the Armor Stratix, same as the other 5700. However, this form factor is for an IP67 rated area, so high dust, maybe wash down areas. They have those M12 connection, D code or X code, depending if they're fast Ethernet or gig Ethernet. Same Premier integration. Next, we have a Stratix NAT address translator. What this does is this is a lower cost network address translator. So if you don't need a full-blown switch, maybe you have a switch in one of your cell area zones that do not support NAT, you could buy this device and put it in front of that switch and at a low cost form implement some variant of network address translation. So there are some guidelines depending on what kind of NAT you're looking at. You can get a hold of me or look at the information out on the web, and we can kind of help you out steer in the right way. Also, the Stratix 5950, this is actual an ASA firewall. So from Cisco, they make these ASA firewalls. This is not meant to exist in between your IT and your OT environment in that industrial demilitarized zone. This device is made to go out in the access area. So right in your cell area zones, maybe you have some legacy devices that you need out on the plant floor that you need protection from. This would be a great device to give you that secure connection through there. And it'll give you not only firewall protection, which protects on 5 things, your destination and source IP address or destination and source MAC addresses and protocols. It'll actually give you deep packet inspection and be able to kind of go with more of a fine-tooth comb through and ensure that you provide adequate security out there at your access layers. And then also it supports Cisco's firepower. So this is something that if you're doing central management of your firewalls, you can use Cisco's firepower to go through and manage these Stratix 5950. Next, we have the Stratix 2500. This is a lightly managed switch. This sits kind of, I would say, in between port count wise. It doesn't have a lot of port counts, but this is that step right before we get to the Stratix 2000. It comes in a 5-port or 8-port form factor. Gives you some light abilities for management, but doesn't give you the full blown. So obviously the price point is a lot lower than some of the full blown Stratix switches. So get a hold of me. We can kind of help let you know what areas this makes sense for or might not make the best sense for. Also the Stratix 2000. The Stratix 2000 is our unmanaged switch, phenomenal device. It's used out there in the field, but just I'd say be very wary, because also besides being OneSource's network solution consultant, we do have kind of some services that we can go out and I can come out and do an audit of industrial networks. It's through the authorized service provider ASP network kind of services that we offer through, and I'll be able to come out there and take a look at your network. And one of the first red checks or red flags that would come up if I was auditing your network would be if you had unmanaged switches out there primarily on your network. And the reason for that is unmanaged switches are great, easy to set up, no configuration. You plug, you play, they give connectivity. The problem with that is as we move through with cybersecurity, which we'll be covering next week also, next week Thursday, is access, the visualization of your network and access for you to go through and provide security for the full network. It's limited with unmanaged switches, and the point that if I plugged in maybe 20 switches with 5 ports each and I plug devices into every port, it would look like all of those devices are plugged into the same switch, into the same port, and it would make either troubleshooting or defense kind of impossible. So be very wary, great devices, but when you get into cybersecurity, it will come up as a red flag. Next, we have the Stratix 5800. So the Stratix 5800, this is our new release for a modular switch. So it replaces the Stratix 8000 and 8300 with regards to modularity, meaning you can add an expansion module. Comes with all gig switch ports, fixed modular ports. Max count would bring you up to 26 ports, and it would be a combination of copper and fiber. Also supports power over Ethernet, supports layer 2 or layer 3 routing, and also that same IT/OT integration tool set you could use for this. Also the default configuration, similar to the other Stratix portfolios, and that Premier integration. It all holds true with the same switch. The difference is this also has a new operating system. So if you're familiar hearing about Cisco IOS, this supports Cisco's iOS XE. And you'll see when we get through some of the web user interfaces, it gives more, I'd say, advanced features. Comes in 8 different form factors. At the very top, fixed, modular. The difference between the two is fixed does not accept the expansion module. Modular will accept an expansion module. And the differentiator between 3 through 5 and 6 through 8, it's layer 2 or layer 3. So you can get either 8 copper, 2 SFP for possible fiber uplinks with either layer 2 or layer 3 functionality, and then also with either advanced feature sets or non-advanced feature sets, and then with PoE or non-PoE. Advanced feature sets would include parallel redundancy protocol. This is the ability to create non-reconverging networks, meaning if there's an outage, the network wouldn't ever have to reconverge because it has 2 parallel networks, the same networks, and 2 packets are sent out. First packet that makes it to the destination is used and the other one is discarded. So no reconvergence time. Then you have DLR, device level ring, TrustSec for layer 3, and HSR. Those are the advanced feature sets that are supported. So if you need those, you need to make sure you select a form factor that supports advanced feature sets. Next is a quick chart for you guys to use. The very top gives the switches. The very bottom going vertically will give you the expansion modules. As you can see, you have the 10 ports. It has the RJ45 for showing you which ports are copper, PoE and PoE ports to show which copper ports support power over Ethernet, SFP, which is small form factor pluggable. These accept those little LC gigabit transceivers in there where you can select either single mode fiber, multi-mode fiber, or possibly copper connections. And then is it a modular switch? You can see from the very 2 top switches, they don't support modularity, the bottom ones do. And then also layer 3 devices and advanced. If you're going to get advanced feature set, you need to ensure that you get an advanced switch to support the expansion modules for the advanced features. This is just a quick guideline. We go from 6-port copper, 8-port copper, 14-port copper, or 16-port copper, and it's a mix of either fiber SFP ports or copper, and power over Ethernet or non-power over Ethernet, along with advanced feature sets. And then here's another chart. I just kind of put some color into it to show what devices going vertically is the switch, going horizontally along the top is the expansion modules, what base units work with what expansion modules. And then configuration guidelines. I talked about fixed switches. They do not support expansion modules. Modular switches will only support one expansion module. Unlike the 8000 A300 had multiple, this will only support one. And then if you're going to be getting a switch with advanced feature set, you need to make sure that the base switch supports advanced features for that expansion module to support advanced features. Same holds true for power over Ethernet. If you're getting power over Ethernet, ensure that you have a power over Ethernet base switch for the expansion module. Supports layer 2, layer 3 routing. Also supports the new web user interfaces. This is going to give you updated menu structures, ability for you to do file management, screen sorting. I used it over at Rockwell's Hot. It's very quick. It's a lot quicker than the standard Stratix web pages, and this just taking advantage of the new iOS XE firmware that Rockwell has released. Also, they have extended troubleshooting tools with debug bundles, pace or ping and trace routes, as well as a direct access link in the command line. And then due to time, I'm not going to go over all of these, but these are the layer 2 features that are supported. These are the layer 3 features that are supported. If you get a layer 3 device, it's going to support layer 2 as well as layer 3 devices, feature sets. And then last but not least, this is just the advanced features that I kind of covered earlier, is we have a product registration offering going on right now. So if you bought a Stratix device since July 1st of 2019, a Stratix 8000, a 5700, an Armor Stratix 5700, a 5400, or 5410, you go through and you click on this link, it'll actually bring you through and let you register your device, and you can get an extended warranty for 2 years. So that is the end of my presentation. Shelly, if you would like to unmute the mics, or maybe guys, I don't know if you've been chatting back and forth with any questions, but that's the end of my presentation. Are there any questions? All right. If there's no questions, that wraps up my presentation. Please get a hold of me if you have any questions. Once again, I'm Adrian Lapola with One Source Distributors. I'd love to talk with you and help you out in developing some of your future industrial network designs. Thank you.
Nice job, Adrian.
All right. Thank you, Matt. Were there any questions?
No, I don't see any in the Q&A.
All right. Perfect.